This video is going to be for those trying to modify indicators so that they can be automated using the Predator X order entry. I already have a few videos about this using Strategy Builder. Watch these, they'll be much easier if you've never coded before. But if you want to dig into it a little bit more and maybe just don't want the hassle of having to enable a second strategy, then this video is going to show you how to actually modify the indicator code so we could add our own custom signal. And obviously, every indicator is different. This might not work for everything, but these steps should apply to a good number of indicators. Now, to get things started, we're going to modify a double stochastics indicator, or really one I modified back in 2022 for another member so that we could add a background highlighter color to it as well. And this indicator was taken from the built-in NinjaTrader double stochastics indicator. It's the same thing, we just added the highlight color. Basically for today, we're just modifying a modified indicator. So let's get started. All right, the first thing that we need is the indicator that we're going to be modifying. I just go to indicators. I'm going to find our indicator. In this instance, it's going to be the double stochastics. And anytime I'm going to be adding some sort of a custom signal or modifying an existing indicator, I like to create an entirely new indicator. And that way we're going to prevent any sort of conflict errors that come from using the same names for the same indicators. This can happen sometimes if your product gets out and there's a user that has the old version and they're importing the newer version with the same name. It could cause all sorts of problems. So in this case, I just like to create an entirely new indicator. So for this one, I'm just going to the folder I want to put it in. I'm going to right click on it and select new indicator. And we're going to get our new Ninja script. So here I just go to next, select the name. So I'll just call this double stock signal mod. Then next, in this page, we have our calculate method. I do suggest, and at least for this video, we're going to stay with on bar close. This just means it's only going to calculate one time anytime a bar closes. This is going to help us prevent multiple signals from printing on the same bar, and it'll just make the handling a little bit easier. So for this example, I'm just going to stay with on bar close. Once we have that, because we're just copying the code from one to the other, we can just hit generate. And that just opens up our new indicator script. So from here, to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to take our original indicator, right click on it, move to a new window. And I'm going to try and add this to just one screen so it's a little bit easier for the video. All right, on the left side, we have our new script that we just created. On the right side, we have our existing indicator. Now, I just want to copy and paste our existing to our new one. But when we're doing this, we can't just take the entire script and copy it over, because we will also be copying the public class names, which these are what causes the problems when trying to compile it. If you have two indicators with the same name, it's not going to work. You're going to get an error. So we must just copy the actual code that was written out. So in this instance, I'm just going to take our private variables. I just copy them, make sure we put them in the exact same place in our new indicator. Now I'm going to come down here. I take anything usually under the name. So starting from calculate, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to under the properties to these last two curly brace right before the Ninja script generated code. Do not copy and paste this. This is going to automatically generate in our new indicator. So I'm just going to highlight this, copy it. I go over to our new script. Again, I click right at the calculate, scroll all the way down to the end of our script. I just highlight all of that and I paste our new code into that. And again, do not touch this Ninja script generated code. This is going to be automatic. So once we have that, let's just compile. Once that's compiled, let's just check it on the chart, make sure we have everything working properly. So we can get rid of our original indicator. All right, so on our chart, I'm just going to right click, go to indicators, select the folder that we put our new indicator in, and double stock signal mod. All the properties look the same as our original indicator. So just hit apply, and you can see The double stochastic seems to work. It's highlighting at the proper time. So everything is looking okay. So that means we can move on to add our actual signals. All right, now that we confirmed our new indicator works, let's go over what we're actually trying to do. In order to automate a third-party indicator with the Predator, we need that indicator to generate a NinjaTrader draw object with the tag plus current bar code. So for this example, I'm going to suggest we just stick to using up and down arrows. So basically all I want to do with this is I want to generate an arrow when the double stochastic crosses the upper line, a down arrow when it crosses below the upper line, and the same thing for the opposite side when it crosses below the lower line, and another one when it crosses above the lower line. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be profitable. I'm just going to give users the most amount of customization so they can use this however they want. And just as an extra, I'm also going to add some options to toggle on and off those custom signals. So if a user only wants to see signals in one direction, they can do that as well. And as well, if they want to customize the tag that is being used, we'll give them that option as well. So here's how to do that. Back in our code, we're going to go to our set defaults. And here we're going to type in our new variables. So what do we need? Cross above upper bool. We're going to set this to true. Then I'm just going to copy, paste this to make 4 altogether, and just change the name. So cross below, and we'll change this to a capital to make it a little bit easier to read. So cross above lower bool. And we change the last one to cross below lower bool. And these are just going to be true and false statements that will allow us to toggle which signals we actually want to see. Now I'm just going to copy these, paste them down here, and I'm just going to highlight them, Control plus F, make sure quick replace, look in selection, do not select document, make sure it's selection. I'm going to type in bool, change this to a string, and I'm going to replace all of them. And I'm just going to write out what I want the actual tag that we're going to type into the Predator to be. So cross above upper, and pretty much just do these for the same thing. These are all going to be strings. So when it's all done, we have our true and false statements, and we have our strings. That is the tag that is actually going to be placed into the Predator so the Predator can read these signals. And whenever we type anything into our set defaults, we have to scroll down and we have to create the actual property for each variable. So I'm just going to create a new group name for these. So you would just need something like this. We have our public bool, cross above upper bool, and we can just copy this. We're just going to paste them right underneath, and we're going to change the names of each one so it reflects each new bool that we made. Now we have to do the same but for our strings. So let's just copy all of these. I'm going to paste them right underneath, and we're going to change the same bool to a string, and that should be everything that we need in there. And for the last step, if you want to organize where they're going to be set in your properties, you can just change the order number here. If you want the strings to be right under each bool, you can do that as well. You can just modify them in here, really whatever you want. I'm just going to do this to make it a little bit faster. But once we have that, let's compile, make sure it works, and then we can move on to these signals. Once that's compiled, we go into our indicators, and here we can see cross above upper, cross below upper, cross above lower, cross below lower. And our strings are in here. Everything checks out, everything looks okay. Let's go back to our chart, figure out what the plot is and how we can modify this to create our signals. So in this example, it's pretty easy. We're just trying to follow the red line. When it crosses above a threshold, create a signal. When it crosses below a threshold, another signal. So if you don't know how to find the value of your plot, the easiest way, sometimes I just like to open up the data box, and you will usually find your exposed plots in here. So this one is called K. And as you can see, as we move through the chart, the value of K matches exactly where it's set on the chart. So that way we know this is the value we are working. So back in our code, you might look at all of this and be a little bit overwhelmed because you might not know what any of this means. And quite frankly, you don't actually need to know any of this. I mean, obviously, if you want to start modifying certain calculations and creating your own indicators, then yeah, you'll have to study it a little bit. But for what we're trying to do today is just find the plot value and create a signal based on that value. So like we had before, we're just looking at K. It seems to be down here, fairly easy to spot in this indicator. And just to verify we are working with the correct value, you can just create a simple print K at the most current bar. Scroll back down. Plus, I usually like to add the time just to make sure everything lines up. Let's hit compile. All right, so back in our chart, let's just click on the chart, press F5. We can go to the bottom of our NinjaScript output. We have 8:08 and 34 seconds. So with on bar close, this will be the last candle, 8:08 and 34 seconds. Let's open up the data box. So we get a value of 50.93. That is the same, rounded up a little bit from the NinjaScript output. So as we go, all the values seem to check out with the correct timestamp. So that means we are working with the correct plot. Now, because we're trying to go above a threshold or below a threshold to create a signal, these will usually just be a numeric value. So you could type in if K-plot is above 90 or below 10 in this instance. But last time I worked on this indicator, I actually made another set of variables just to keep track of the upper and lower values. So we will just reference the upper max and lower min values when we're creating our custom signal. All right, now for the final part, and that is the actual creating the signal. So where are we going to type this code in? Let's take a look at our calculations. We know that K is right here at the bottom. That is the plot value that we're using. So typically you just want to put your code anywhere after all the calculations are done. So just expand this, make sure there's nothing hidden in there. These are just if statements using that same K value. So we don't really need anything from here. So really anything underneath this K, you're good to add your code. So the first thing that I'm going to add is when we cross above the upper line. So what I'm going to say is if cross above, and we're going to type in K, that is our K value, comma, and upper max, that is the same value we defined up here for our upper threshold. And we're going to say a value of 1. So this means if our K value crosses above the upper max value within 1 bar, then we can execute our code. And here also, I want to add in our Boolean condition. So and I'm going to scroll up here, cross above upper bool. So you can just leave it like this, or you can type in equals true. It's essentially the same thing, but just to keep it simple, I just like to leave it off. So once the cross above happens and our Boolean is true, then we can execute our code. So like I mentioned before, we're going to use an up arrow. And to find this code, you just head over to the NinjaTrader help guide. You can just search up arrow and it'll give you a nice, good example of what we need. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here. And remember, we need a tag plus current bar code. So for our tag, again, I'm going to scroll up here. We created this string. So we can just remove the tag, paste our new string over it, plus current bar. And if you want to change the color of the arrow, we can just change it in here as well. I'm going to change this one to green when we're going into it and red when we're coming out of it. So that should be all that we need. We're just drawing an up arrow. We have our tag plus current bar. We are placing the arrow at the low of that bar, and it's going to be a green arrow. So let's just hit compile and make sure it works, and then we'll add the rest of our code. All right, back in our chart, I'm just going to push F5, and here we can see when it crosses, we have a green arrow. We have one over here as well, and one right here. So we know our green arrow cross above the upper line is working. Let's now add the rest of our code. So I'm just going to copy and paste these down here. So cross below this time and upper max. And same thing, we're looking at the K value. We're crossing below the upper max. And we just need to change this bool to cross below upper bool. Draw arrow. We want to do a down arrow this time. And make sure we change our string as well. We want to plot this at the high of the candle. And we're going to do a red arrow. Now I'm just going to copy and paste both of these. All right, so I'm just going to modify these with the lower threshold values, and we'll be right back so we can see the new code. All right, we're back. I just added the code for the lower threshold. We're just adding an arrow up when we're crossing above the lower, adding an arrow down when we're crossing below the lower. And it would also help very much if we type in the correct variable. So let's just change that. Now we can hit compile. So again, I'm just going to hit F5 on our chart, and we can see we have a green arrow when we cross above the upper, a red arrow when we cross below the upper, and a blue arrow when we cross below, a pink arrow when we cross above the lower. So everything seems to be working properly. Let's load up the Predator and see how we can automate this indicator. All right, so now to actually automate our indicator with the Predator. The first thing that we need, always make sure, click on the signals, never rely on somebody else's template or what somebody else tells you. Click on the signals yourself, make sure you read what the tag says and input this tag into the Predator. Most of the support requests I get for these signals is from people not putting in the correct tag. So always just verify it yourself. Just type in whatever you see in this box minus the current bar number. So that means the cross above lower, cross above upper, cross below upper, and we find that something is not working. So let's fix that really quick before we move on.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
All right, so we just changed our code to where it was actually supposed to be, cross below lower, cross below lower. So once we have that, let's compile, go back to our chart. Let's move on and set this up inside the Predator. So we'll right click on the chart, go to strategies, open up your Predator folder, and this will work whether you're in the new LT version for the lifetime members or the trial version found on the Discord. Just select your Predator, and we're going to scroll down to our custom signal. We'll open that up. And for this example, I'm going to be using an entry signal. For this one, I'm going to enter long when we cross above the upper threshold, and I'm going to enter short when we cross below the lower threshold. So what we type in for a long entry signal is the cross above upper. And for short, we're crossing below the lower. And that's all you really need for an entry signal. You can also add other additional indicators that come with the Predator. But let's just set up our order, make it quick. Then from here, you can customize your order however you want. So I'm just going to select our order quantity, take profit. Let's do maybe 50 ticks for the first target. And we can set up multiple targets as well if we want. For this one, I'm just going to say no profit. I'm going to set a break even when it reaches the first target. And I'm also going to trail using the ATR. And this one can get triggered again at the same time when we hit our first profit target. You can customize this literally however you want. You can add more filters if you want, like a profit loss limit, trades per direction, any time filters that you want. Customize this to fit your needs. But I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to do that just because we're just trying to see how this works. All right, once you have your Predator loaded, let's just go down to your control panel in the strategies tab and select the enable box, and you will see the Predator come up. Now let's take a look at the upper left hand corner. Here is your validation system. This part is very important when using custom signals. Here you will see your long and your short custom signal. You will see a check mark next to them. That will tell you that the Predator is reading that signal and it is valid. If you see an hourglass, that means the tag is most likely not typed in correctly. So maybe let's go back, revisit that tag, make sure it matches exactly how it's written inside the property. But everything seems to be okay. So let's just hit play and see how this works. So here we're waiting for the stochastic line to go above the upper line. Or if
Order
it comes
submitted.
down, oh, never mind, it entered long there. So it went above, we got our green arrow up. It's a little hard to see there, but we have our green arrow up. So we entered long. We have our first profit target 50 ticks away. Our second profit target doesn't actually have a limit order, but it's just going to trail that stop. So let's just hit play, see how it works out. We may hit our profit target.
Order filled.
We might get stopped out. That's okay. Again, guys, I'm not saying this is profitable. I'm just showing this as an example.
Order submitted.
Here we got another long entry.
Order filled.
We hit our first profit target. When we hit that first profit target, we got up to break even. And if it keeps going, we'll start trailing using that ATR we set inside the Predator properties.
Order filled.
So it just came back, got us
Order
out of break
submitted.
even. But now we entered short. It's the same thing, but in the opposite direction. We have our profit target 50 ticks away, and I'll just start trailing as soon as it hits our first profit target. So we'll see if that
Order
happens.
filled.
Okay, so we got our
Order
break even.
filled.
We got stopped out on the rest. That's okay, it happens. And that's pretty much just how these signals work. As soon as it detects that draw object with the same tag that we defined inside our Predator properties, it's just going to enter you into that trade based on your conditions. But you can also use these signals to filter out your other auto entries. You can use them to exit out your orders however you want. I have a lot more videos on these. This video is mainly just to show how to actually create these signals, but I hope you guys found this video useful. As always, take care, enjoy.